I'm pleased to have with us in this segment Beth Coyne, who's the local sales manager for Effectv, working out of the Marlborough office. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
So,
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So Beth, Effectv used to be known as
Comcast Spotlight. So we've been the advertising arm of Comcast. So we insert cable TV commercials for all networks, and we had partnered in the past with Spectrum to put TV commercials in the traditional cable networks like ESPN, HGTV, Boston Sports, that sort of thing.
And now taking on a new role.
Yes.
And so in that regard, there's a new era. A lot of people in Central Mass and the region were familiar with Charter News, but now it's become part of a nationwide effort known as Spectrum.
Yes. Yep. So Spectrum News 1 will replace what was TV3, or it has. The new network actually launched in December. We started introducing it to the business community in January, but it definitely fills a void to have a very hyper-local news that centers on important issues to the greater Worcester area and Central Mass. So we're pleased to be able to bring this to our business community for advertising opportunities around content that's really pertinent to the homes and businesses that they service.
Yeah, and I think the timing couldn't be better. I mean, there's been a conversation that the Chamber has been a part of, but I think the community writ large about, Central Mass becoming a bit of a news desert, and how do we make sure we have those local stories that talk about community, that build community, that focus on issues that are important to everyone, the business community, residents, and above. And I think the feedback has been great so far.
Yeah, it really has. And so there's local journalists right here in the greater Worcester area. There's also a feed to Chicopee and Pittsfield. So basically anywhere that Spectrum has cable households, there's local news reporters collecting that information, and probably stories that would historically get overlooked by a traditional news outlet. So it really is a great thing.
So there's a transition in a couple levels. We've seen the transition here from Charter 3 to Spectrum 1 News. The format, much more regular, a little bit more local, on a daily basis, updated throughout the day. So that's new. And then there's the transition of you also working to kind of help get the word out how people can advertise on it. So maybe you want to talk about the transitions?
Sure. Yeah, so historically, TV3 was a pretty varied programming platform. Over time, it did center more and more to news content, which eventually got to be like half of the programming that the network was producing. And so Spectrum has been doing this format in other markets. California, Florida, and most recently Albany, New York. So Worcester was kind of the next natural market to have this model, if you will, implemented, and it was perfect timing, as you mentioned, for all the reasons and all the exciting things happening in Worcester. So it is a 24/7 news network. As you mentioned, 3 updated newscasts in the morning, midday, and evening. And there is some carryover from the former programming with the Friday night football games, which will be seasonal, as well as some of the Holy Cross games will be aired. And then when the Pawsox begin in the spring and summer, some of those games will be aired as well. But primarily it is just 24/7 news, similar to New England Cable News, NECN, that type of format.
Right. Well, we're thrilled to be part of the carryover. The Chamber Exchange was part of the Charter News, but thrilled to be part of the ongoing conversation, because the business community creates a lot of news and is important.
Absolutely.
So we're happy to help bring some of those stories and companies and individuals here. And so if you're a business out there or somebody looking to advertise, what's available on the channel? How can they learn more?
This, unlike the traditional cable TV advertising that we sell, is really affordable by any business, small or large. So you can have just regular commercials in each segment of the news. If you just wanted the morning, midday, evening, you can buy whatever you want, and it is very efficient. And then there are also some limited inventory sponsorship opportunities where you will actually have a banner that would say, this segment of the news brought to you by insert local business here. And those also are extremely efficient and priced for everybody, for the masses. So I don't really feel that there's anybody that would feel this was something that they couldn't invest in and be part of the local community.
All right, and there's lots of advertising opportunities out there now for people with kind of the explosion of social media and
Sure.
Targeting via social media, but digital is a big part of what you do. TV's a piece of that, and lots of good reasons for people to utilize it.
Yeah, and I just think this is an exciting time for Worcester, and again, that community feel, that association with the community that this new network brings is an awesome opportunity for local businesses to really put their message out in front of the people that matter most to them. So there's really no waste in their advertising message, which is always a concern. So we're excited to be able to bring this to everybody, and hopefully we'll forge some new relationships with clients that we haven't done business with in the past, and can help them grow their business.
I think any business is interested in informed consumers, and if you're watching the news because you're interested in what's going on in your community, you're probably going to be a good customer for whatever service or product is being provided. So
I would think so.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
A couple months. The feedback from your perspective so far on the transition?
Yeah, I mean, it's anecdotal at this point. We would expect to have some hard viewership data. The network doesn't subscribe to Nielsen, so there's no ratings per se, but we will have some data that we can share after the first quarter. But anecdotally, from the clients who are currently advertising now and consumers that have seen the programming, it's all been very positive. And they're familiar with some of the journalists, so that there's been some transition between some of the older newscasts and the new ones, but people seem to really like the fact that this is for them, and whether that's pertinent to Central Mass, which we know is very different from everywhere else, and traffic and news. So it's really been great thus far.
Yeah, there's certainly kind of Eastern Mass, but to have this kind of hyper-local, daily, breaking kind of news opportunity is really unique, and it's the first of its kind.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think probably a lot of people in Western Mass, you mentioned, Chicopee, the greater Springfield area, and Pittsfield, which is really Western Mass, not so much. There's some people in Boston who think Worcester's Western Mass.
Right.
But even for them, so if you're an advertiser, who is interested in Central Mass, you couldn't be better, but also there's some benefit for somebody who's looking to be more statewide, or at least cover 2/3 of the state.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, if you're an advertiser, you get the entire spectrum footprint, so that would include Greater Worcester and out to the Berkshires and Chicopee. But eventually we'll zone that out so that if you are a business that is just out that area and don't really care about Worcester, you'd be able to just buy those homes that are pertinent to you. So that would be like the further iteration of the opportunities.
So as they talk about, really targeting, micro-targeting, and to some extent of who your customers and consumers are.
Yep, exactly.
So you're not paying for something you don't necessarily, not going to benefit.
Nobody wants to do that.
So if there's a business out there, Beth, who's interested in a further conversation, how might they get in touch with you or learn more about advertising opportunities?
Sure. What's the best way to?
Well, maybe an email or email address. We can repeat it and get it out there.
Sure, it's Elizabeth_Coyne, COYNE @Comcast.com. So that's a little
Elizabeth_Coyne
@Comcast.com.
Comcast.com.
Yep.
Well, Beth, thank you. We really appreciated the conversation. And again, you mentioned anecdotal, but the feedback that I've heard from a lot of different people, really excited and positive. And then also the location on people's, Channel 1.
Right.
Everyone knows where it is, and they're not chasing around, and it's a convenient location too.
Yeah, we're excited. I think it's going to be great for the community and good for the local business community as well. So
great. Well, the Chamber's thrilled to be a part of it as well.